Have you been told to do 90-90 hip stretches for tight hips? Maybe you felt it's been helpful for you. Maybe you felt it's been making the symptoms worse for you. Today we're going to be discussing why I'm not a huge fan of the 90-90 hip stretches. But I want you to hear me out and understand what you're doing or what you're putting your body under when you get into this 90-90 position. First and foremost, I want you just to examine the position itself. Your femur is in internal rotation here, but your tibia and foot is moving in external rotation. So right off the bat, you're creating a twist at the knee. This isn't really a problem with the stretch because it's not loaded, but it creates a habitual pattern that tells our nervous system that it's okay to start loading this pattern because we've familiarized ourselves with this position by resting in this position. So if we take this position and extrapolate it to an athletic movement and watch a few videos, you tell me which position looks more secure, which position looks safer. First one is with the foot externally rotating as the hip is in an internal rotated position. And then the second shows a video where the person is in that external rotation position, the one that, if you ask me, looks like it's going to be painful, but then quickly flips the feet around to match foot internal rotation, tibia internal rotation with femur internal rotation. And you can see how much more secure this position looks during an athletic movement. Second is what we find in an anatomy textbook, in a biomechanics textbook. What we're told in school is that femur internal rotation is coupled with hip extension and adduction, meaning more towards midline. And this stretch is the exact opposite of that. We're getting femur internal rotation with hip abduction, the knee moving away from midline, which isn't normal mechanics that you would expect during the walking and gait cycle. So again, from a normal mechanics standpoint, from a joint perspective standpoint, we're not even facilitating the right motion of the hip with internal rotation. Internal rotation should be coupled with adduction, which is much closer towards midline. So again, for those two purposes, I choose not to do the 90-90 stretch. I'm going to show you an adjustment that you can make to the 90-90 stretch if you find it useful. That sort of helps kind of develop this internal rotation through the whole entire leg. Now, it doesn't create a deduction at the leg, which is the one negative of this, but it does allow you to kind of get into that 90-90 position with a little bit more of that security that we were talking about from an athletic standpoint, just because I don't want to feed my body any type of input that I'm not going to use later on. Furthermore, I'm going to show you an alternative. This is a better position that I would spend more quality time in as a resting position or as a quote-unquote stretch. So you can either choose to utilize a Spider-Man, where the back leg is in internal rotation and the front leg is in external rotation. This is option number one. Or you can do a half 𝐭𝐫𝐨 sit, which again, the down leg is in internal rotation, adduction more towards midline, while the front leg is in more external rotation. Again, so these are the opposing or alternating actions that you would expect at the hip during the gait cycle. Normal biomechanics, which is hip internal rotation of the trail leg, moving into adduction or closer towards midline. And the swing leg, the leg out in front of you, is in external rotation as it's going through hip flexion. Now, all of this might seem very nitpicky to you, and if you've had success with that 90-90 stretch, feel free to continue doing it. But there's a decent number of people who have emailed me, people who I have talked to in the past, who have had hip type symptoms. They've been given the stretch of the 90-90 stretch, and they've had worsening symptoms. And these are part of the reasons why. All right, so I hope you found this video useful. Be sure to type in the comments below if you have any questions. Hope you start using some of those alternatives. Let me know your feedback. Do you like the alternatives better or worse? Do you find it more helpful, less helpful to sit in those positions, to work on those positions or postures, to develop a little bit more flexibility as part of your routine? What do you notice? What would you like to see in the future videos? Be sure to type those in the comments below, and we'll be back at it with another video sometime soon.